Okay, in this video, what we're going to look at is using a debugger to actually see what's happening inside of a program. So we have a very simple program here, and the intent of it is you can type in a number like 10, and it'll create a little pattern of asterisks, right? So it's 10 rows high by 10 asterisks wide at the bottom. So in row 1, there's only 1. In row 2, there's 2. Row 3, there's 3. 4 is 4. Now, I was asked on how we could, or if I could demonstrate this in a little more detailed way. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the debugger to actually step through and look at the variables each time through the loop. So to do that, we're going to do a couple of things first. First, we're going to go to the Run menu. We're going to set the main project to be whatever project we're working on. So in this case, I'm working on this project. And then if you have multiple main classes, so sometimes when you're starting out, we did several different example projects, and you can see how they all have these little green arrows. That means they each have a main method. So what we're going to do is go in here to Project Configuration and say Customize, and then you click on Browse, and you pick the actual main method that you want to run. In this case, it's going to be the cool pattern. And you say OK. So now that you have this set as your main method, you can use the debugger. And you'll find there's a little utility bar at the top here, whereby you can see the debug, excuse me, the debug features. And in here, if you don't see this, you can go to View Toolbars and bring up Debug. So there's a few different buttons here. The first one here is Step Into. What this does is when we click Step Into, it takes us into our code, and you can see a green line showing which particular line of code is currently being executed. And then we have a choice. We can step over, my little highlight's not working very well here. There you go, step over the expression. So if you click Step Over, it won't go into the source code. And in the case of print, because someone else has written that and we know that it works, we don't really need to step into it. We can just step over it. And similarly with scanner, I don't need to look at the constructor for a scanner, so I can step over that. And you see how it's highlighting the method next int? If I hit Step Into, that's what it would go to. But I don't need to really see how that works either, so I'm going to step over that expression. And it's gone blue, which means it's waiting for us. So let's click to our output window here. And it says how many rows should be displayed. So let's say 5. Now here's what's great about the debugger is we just entered the number 5 into this variable called row total. And here, if I click on variables, I can see row total is an integer, and it has a current value of 5. And if I click over this, right, so I've executed this, what was line 21, and now we can see row, okay, so we set it to be 1, and then it checks is 1 less than whatever row total is, which is 5. Since that's a true, this evaluates to be true, we step inside this loop, and then we have a new loop here. And this one is going to set up a variable called column. Initially it's going to be 1, and it says column will be less than or equal to the row. Okay, so the row is here. So let's step over that. And now we have a column. So initially we have 1 row, 1 column. Since since 1 is less than or equal to 1, it's true. So we go into our loop and we print 1 asterisk. And then what will happen is we print that 1 asterisk, and it's going to come back up here. And although it didn't show it, I was kind of hoping it would show it. When it comes back in, column will go to 2, in which case this piece here would say 2 is less than or equal to 1, which is a false statement. So it jumps out of the loop, and it prints a new line. So if we look at our output, right now we've got 1 asterisk. And once we execute this line, it'll come down here. So it comes back up here to row. We can step over that. Now if we look at our variables, now we're on row number 2. So now in this loop, we say column, it starts off columns 1, And now it's going to check, is 1 less than or equal to 2? That's a true statement, so it's going to execute this one line of code. And so we can step over that. Comes back up. Right, so if we look at our output at this point, we've got 1 asterisk here. And now, because column increased, 2 is less than or equal to 2, that's still a true statement. So we come in, we're going to print another asterisk. And now what's going to happen is column's going to go to 3, in which case it's going to say, is 3 less than or equal to 2? That'll be false, so it'll come down and do a new line. So click on output. So now we have, there's row 1, had 1 asterisk. Here's row 2 with 2. And go back to our variables. So now row is 3. And if we step over this, we can see column starts at 1, then it goes to 2, then it goes to 3. And then what's going to happen is it's going to be 4 when it goes to evaluate this. And in which case it skips out. Oops, oh, I accidentally went into the source code. There we go. And then our row goes to 4. So you can see that the pattern keeps happening, right? So there's 1, and then 2, and then 3. This time through, I'll do it a little quicker with our variables, but we're going to end up with 4 of those asterisks because there's 4 here. It'll always check that the column is less than or equal to the row. Since the row is 4, it's going to give us 4. Okay, so there's the 4. And this last one's going to be 5. So I just click, click, click. And there we got our little design. So I hope stepping through the debugger made it a little clearer as to what's happening with the nested for loops. If you've got any other questions, come see me in class.